Welcome to On the Brink, a fresh lens to take you and your business to new heights. Hi, I'm Andi Simon. I'm your host and your guide. And as you know, my job is to help you get off the brink and soar again. I go looking for people who are going to help you see, feel, and think in new ways so that you can step back like an anthropologist, observe what's going on, and really begin to think about who am I? Where am I going? What's my company all about? How do I fit? Really deep questions that give you some awareness, reflection, resilience. But unless you can be a little anthropological and look at it through a fresh lens, you get so caught up in it, you're not quite sure what's going on. So today, I have a wonderful woman with me. Her name is Elizabeth Rosenberg. Now, Elizabeth is going to tell you her own life's journey, more than I can tell you in her bio. But she's on a real quest to help others begin to see themselves. I'll call it their personal brand, as she does, but it's deeper than that. It's not casual. It's not in their dress code. It's in who are you and how am I really living the life I want to live? And if I'm not, how do I find that life? Remember, during the pandemic, you heard a lot about you only live once. Well, that's been the case forever. And every day is a gift. So how are we going to make it easier for you to live the best life you have, knowing better who you are, what you're looking for, and how to get there? Elizabeth is shaking her head. I'm going to turn it back to her. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. That was one of the most, I think, beautiful and perfect intros that I've ever had. So I very much appreciate you having me on the show.
You mean you don't want me to ask you 3 questions and we'll be done? That's not our style. For our listeners and our viewers, Elizabeth came to me by chance, and I wasn't really quite sure why. And as we talked, I know there's good reason for you to listen carefully because she's got a message that you're going to want to know more about. And so I'm going to let her talk about her own journey because it has some catalytic moments in it. And I must tell you, everyone I'm bringing on has a crisis of some kind, some catalytic moment where their brain goes, whoosh, there's something going on here. Please, Elizabeth, who are you? And tell us about yourself.
My name is Elizabeth Rosenberg, and I'm the founder of the Good Advice Company. To many, I am a marketing and communications consultant and a personal branding expert. But I think to my friends and my clients and my family, I'm much more than that, as I really love to dive into exactly what you were talking about, the who, the why, what is our legacy, what are we meant to be, why are we meant to be here, what are we meant to do. My story is fairly simple and I think is probably very relatable to most. I've had a 25-year career in public relations and marketing. A few years ago, I experienced severe corporate burnout while I was the global head of communications for a large ad agency. I landed myself in the emergency room with a migraine where I lost all of my motor skills. And I know we talk about that moment where we all have crisis and we all kind of hit our rock bottom. The thing that's fascinating about that is everyone's rock bottom is different. For some, it can be a moment where you land in the emergency room. For others, it can be an emotional moment. For others, it can be a spiritual moment. For others, it can be a mental moment. We all have to kind of, I think, take agency in what that moment means to us and then what we choose to do with it next. From there, I went on a very deep health and wellness journey in addition to switching my job, which I thought would save everything and help everything. I was sure that I had a brain tumor and I was dying and all of the things. And after months of testing and finally, I think taking some time to really reflect, I realized that I had just burned out from corporate America. I went into another job and alas, the pandemic hit. So I actually quit that job on March 2nd of 2020, literally days before the world closed down, and ventured out on my own with a new company. And from there, I have kind of followed the path as it's led me versus I think doing what most of us do as futurists. We future forecast and we try to figure out where the path is leading us. So I've definitely had a lesson in the last few years of being present and kind of seeing what the world is offering me versus trying to make it happen. And from there, I've uncovered kind of a new process that I've been working on that's been really exciting in terms of branding and uncovering our purpose.
It's so interesting. I have a good friend who was over for dinner, and she's a psychotherapist. And she said, I've been reading Buddha again, and I'm wondering about how we can get into the present. You just said that. And the importance of being in the moment and not moving. The past is past. The future is unknown. But what are we doing now to really gain perspective on both, the context? You gave us your history. We're not quite sure where you're going, but we do know that you're beginning to discover new value in what you know and how you do it. And it's not just the PR and communication stuff. It's in how you're transforming people's lives. So talk about your new company and the new process that you have and what you're discovering both about yourself and about the people that you're helping, because it's very powerful.
Thank you. Through my own health and wellness journey, I really started to uncover different forms of healing. I did everything from Eastern medicine to Western medicine to spiritual medicine, New Age, everything in between. And through that, I really tapped into mindfulness and uncovered that I was quite intuitive. And through training, and again, listening with different ears and really trying to remain present and focused on the day to day, I uncovered that I'm a medium. It took me about 2 years to feel comfortable enough to tell that story externally. I think my friends and my family knew. I'd always had this intuition. Every job I've ever been in, my boss has always said in my review, "Oh, you're so intuitive." So I think they probably knew something I didn't. And I really started to tap into that practice. I think a lot of people think that meditating is the way to get there. For me, it was a lot of breath work. I did a past life regression. I have done Chinese medicine. I've done energy work. So I've really tried to look at all modalities I could to get me to where I needed to go. And through this process, I really wanted to kind of tie in my side hustle, as you could say, or my hobby with my job. And it just really naturally presented itself. I was working with one client on her personal brand. Her guides came through in the middle. I was mortified, like, oh my God, what is happening and why is this happening? And then I realized the strength that it had in it. And if I could do an intuitive reading, of which I tap into the Akashic records, and then really pair that with behavioral analytics about who you are, and then the PR part of what I do, really uncovering that story within the story. We all have imposter syndrome and we all feel unworthy at times. And a lot of what I do is listening to what makes somebody amazing and what makes someone themselves, and bring that to the forefront, tied in together with the data that I've gotten in the first few sessions. And from that, I uncovered this beautiful, authentic version of yourself. And then a lot of it is coaching to help you feel comfortable enough to put that person out in the world.
It's interesting. Are you suggesting, people have asked me about imposter syndrome. And in fact, we did a panel on it with a bunch of women. And they said, well, when did you discover, the imposter syndrome? I said, I think when I grew up. I never was anywhere where I felt I was well prepared for it. And I always just sort of rolled up my sleeves. My nature is to be an explorer. And I've been defined by the Culture Index as a philosopher. And I was always quite willing to be underskilled, underqualified, and curious. And it allowed me to impose myself in jobs. I was SVP of one bank, EVP of another bank. Did I know banking? No, I was an anthropologist. And they imposed on me their help and their expectations, what I could bring, but I had no idea what I was doing. And it was okay. But I look back on it and I'm sort of fascinated by this whole word, imposter, that makes it seem as if everybody should be knowing. when most of the time we are not quite sure what the environment is, unless you take a job that's so well defined and you know exactly how to do it. Most of the time you're in a betwixt and between land. And then when I got into healthcare, I had no idea what I was really doing. They had no idea what I was going to be doing, but they loved me. And I said, okay, I'll take it. Let's try and figure out how to help. And when I launched my business, my PR guy said, you're a corporate anthropologist that helps companies change. And I went, bingo. Was I an imposter? Did I have a business? What was I doing? But I loved his brand. And his one sentence was enough to create mine. And so to your point is that as you're talking, I'm saying, yeah, that's me. That's me. Who are we?
Mm-hmm.
Talk some more about, now that you've come to the aha moment where you know better yourself, you're a medium, you intuit, you can feel. My hunch is that there's a sixth sense that you pick up on. You're smiling at me. But I do think I want to get a little bit more of your wisdom for the listener or the viewer, so that it's tangible for them. They can see how it might help them. You could have helped me for years try to figure out who I really was, until John Rossinger said, that's who you are. I said, okay, that's what I am. You're right. Talk to us, Elizabeth, a little bit more.
A little bit about the imposter syndrome. I learned a lot about it through a program called I Am Remarkable, which was actually created through Google. And any of your listeners can take it. You just sign up. And it is a beautiful way for everyone to acknowledge their imposter syndrome and how to work through it. I do believe that your imposter syndrome, as exactly you were talking about, can actually be your strength. There's something so beautiful about going into a job where you don't know everything. What a boring life that would be if you're in something where you're not learning something new every day. And also, I think we forget that we are bringing something new into a field, into an organization, into a team. If we don't know everything, there's always something that you are bringing in that's new. So it's fascinating because every executive I've ever worked with has had imposter syndrome. Men, women, any ethnicity, it's just, we all suffer from it. So I think if we can all kind of collectively decide that we are imposters and that might be our strength, there's something actually quite beautiful in it. In terms of how I help my clients, I help them see what they can't themselves. Just like the coach that you worked with, of really giving you that line of who you are. But more importantly, I think it's very important that we as a society, especially in corporate America, really start defining ourselves by who we are, not necessarily what we do. Mm-hmm. We all work. That is just, we have to. It is what we do. Whether you define yourself as a mother or you define yourself as a stay-at-home parent or a corporate executive, right? We all have that brand of what it is that we do for a living. But the beauty is lost in actually talking about what kind of people we are. When you die, your legacy is not going to be like, oh, well, she did this, he did this. We want to be known for, are we kind? Are we thoughtful? Are we compassionate? Are we funny? Are we, do we bring strength to others? Do we bring others joy? I just think that there's something so lost in that. And that was also an aha pandemic moment for me, as people were dying and obituaries were starting to read like resumes. I was like, oh God, if I die tomorrow and my resume says that I worked for this brand and I did this and nothing says anything about who I actually am as a person, like, what life was I living? How awful.
So as you work with your clients, because I can feel my audience smiling, as you work with them, you're helping them identify not just are they in the right career or job, but also are they living the life that gives them the most, I hate using the word purpose, but that sense of meaning. We're meaning makers as humans. Out of context, we don't exist. So in some ways, we're trying to find our meaning in the context of what we're doing. And what you're saying is that a bit shouldn't be just about what you did, but who you are and how you brought meaning to others so they too could prosper. And yep, am I right?
Yes. Yep. Yes, that is exactly right.
And as you do, how do you do it? I'm curious.
I tap into the Akashic Records, which for your audience is an intuitive place to go, is the best way to describe it. That is like your soul's library. It is a journey from past, present, future. As I tap into that place, I can steer a conversation with the knowing that I'm talking to, universe, light, whatever it is that you want to refer to it as, and truly ask them, what is your soul's purpose? And I believe that we have many, by the way, but what is your soul's purpose? And then what is the life purpose? So how are you actualizing that purpose in this lifetime? The funny thing is we are all already living our purposes.
That's right.
We just need to be reminded that we're doing it in a way, I think, that's quite beautiful. I also think in ways that are much more simple than we're thinking. But I don't just work with clients who are in, a place of inflection in their lives, are in change, are struggling. I work with a lot of clients who are actually quite successful, who are just missing that purpose, who are missing that part of their life that's missing, and feeling like they just aren't living up to, I think, the greater good, right? That you're just stuck in a hamster wheel and you're just doing your everyday life, whether it's your personal life, your professional life. And I believe that when you can tap into your purpose, how you live changes drastically.
It's so interesting listening to you. I was at a conference last week, and I was talking to a woman who had, during the conference, the epiphany that what she was doing was more important than she thought what she was doing. And it was a very interesting listening, because all of a sudden she realized that the role she did, the things she did, were very good. And her business was a very good business, but it wasn't the purpose, a sufficient amount of purpose for her to feel purposeful. It was tactical and practical, and it was good. Meaningful, hadn't reached that point.
Yeah.
And as she was going through, this was an International Women's Day event in DC, as she was going through it, she had that epiphany where her brain took it to the next stage.
How lovely to witness that.
Well, it was interesting because she was talking about it, and me, being who I am, said, "You've just been elevated to the next level." And she looked at me. I said, "Think about what you just said. And it isn't that you have a good business and you do good work. It has bigger meaning, more purpose and power for others than just what you're." She said, "Yeah." And I went, "Oh," and was sort of like, "Ooh." But
Then how lovely to facilitate that. I think that's so amazing.
Well, my challenge in life is that that's what I do. I listen more, try to hear what people are saying and set it in a context. Like you, I mean, I learned that when I discovered anthropology. It wasn't tactical and practical. It was who I was as a person, not a job I was going to do. And I listen, trying to figure out stuff. It's a weird world. But as you're talking, I'm excited because it is hard to find others who can do really something. I've stopped bringing coaches onto the platform as much as I can, but there are too many women coaches or even men who are trying to do coaching in a way that isn't tapping into the inner soul. It's just sort of on the tactical, practical side. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's another. You are really transformational.
Thank you. It's so, as you're talking, I'm like, ooh, do I start calling myself a soul anthropologist? I'm kind of liking that phrase, that thought. But it is, on the coaching front, there's something very different that I do than coaching. I think there are people that need coaching at a certain time in their life. I think there are people who need personal development and therapy at a certain time in their life.
Yes.
I think there are people who need what I offer at a certain time in their life. We are all at different places in our own personal development journey. Yes. And you have to recognize where you are. There are so many clients that come to me that say, I got your name from someone and I can't wait to work with you. And, this is where I am and this is what I want to do. And I say to them, I am not the right person for you. You need coaching right now. Here are 3 or 4 amazing coaches. Talk to them. And it's a lot like dating. You really have to, when you're looking for a therapist, you're looking for a coach, you're looking for somebody to guide you through different parts of your life. You really need to make sure that you are working with someone who is going to hold you accountable and also get you to that next place. Somebody that you can manipulate and somebody that you can be quite complacent with is not going to get you anywhere. You're just throwing money away.
Yeah.
So know what you need when you need it.
But that's very important for us to echo. No one size fits everyone. You need to know who you are, which often requires a little bit of assessment before you start, and what it is you're trying to fix. Because often I find, as I coach, I'm a John Mattone trained executive coach, and thank you, John Mattone. But I often find that the issues that come with bring out my consulting job more than my coaching job. They need ideas on how to fix a business or even for personal problems. But if you do through the coaching methodology and trying to get them to elicit solutions, they don't know what to do. They haven't got in their toolkit. There's nothing there that comes through. So you got to begin to provide the consultative ideas that might generate some, oh, that's what I should do, and off they go. But people are complicated, and you have found a way to help them in a particular fashion. How really
it is very specific, because I also do tap into obviously the marketing and PR aspect. I mean, I love marketing and PR. It is still the thing that it is my adrenaline hit. And what I really want to do is help, again, executives, leaders, business owners, also media optimize their brands. The PR landscape has changed so drastically in the last few years. Everything's behind a paywall. There's actual news that journalists need to be writing about. Being able to media optimize your own brand, to talk about thought leadership in a way that is interesting, that has a relatable story to tell, will not only, I believe, impact other people with your story, but it always grows your business. I mean, I've had clients who've had op-eds in Fast Company, who've had 6-figure salary raises just because they've changed their narrative as to, this is the impact that I want to make on the world, this is the purpose that I'm living, and this is the type of business that I want to be doing. So we only have, as you said, we only have one life to live. You might as well be happy when you're doing it. Yeah.
But what you just said was very powerful. All of a sudden, the next stage in our journey opened up to them because they had time to sit with you and really dig into who they were and what was of great value. What's a brand anyhow? It answers the question, why you? And it does it in a rich fashion so that when you begin to tell that, people learn something from it or gain something from it, or you give and share something with it. The only reason to have a brand is to do something with it. What is the purpose? So it's very exciting. And as you do that, you get further affirmation that what you're doing has real value, huh?
Always. And you always make more money doing it too. Once you're actually doing something that you really love to do, I believe it's like the power of the law of attraction, right? You're actually inviting in a very different level of energy. You're inviting in different people as well. I think you're inviting in people who elevate you energetically, who are excited about what it is that you're building. And that also, I believe, brings you more abundance and more joy in your life every day.
Sounds like you've found the joyful way not to burn out, huh?
I have to be reminded sometimes to still not burn out. I genuinely believe that your body moves much faster than your mind, and your body burns out much faster than your mind. So listen to what it is that your body's saying to you. And burnout is different for everyone. What might look like a series of migraines for one could be an eye twitching for another, could be lack of sleep for somebody else. Everyone has different ways of manifesting stress in their lives. So it really comes down to if you're listening to your body or not. But it's hard to do that, just like it's hard to be present.
Yes, right.
We move too quickly as a society and as a race. So we need to be more cognizant of the little messages and the little things that we're getting on a regular basis.
And I always tell my clients, you need an hour of self-love. Start your day with a workout, with a walk in the woods, have a cup of coffee and sit quietly, meditate. If you want to, listen to some mindfulness music, do something to quiet the body and get it going, or end the day with some notes of gratitude and a little bit of kindness. It does wonderful oxytocin in your brain. But if you don't do self-care, how can you care for anybody else? And then you fall
Exactly.
apart, right?
1,000,000%. And I believe with a lot of my clients, finding that hour can be difficult. So even if you can't find that hour, find 5 minutes a couple times a day. I always tell everybody, if you can't find that time, build in 5 minutes to breakfast, lunch, and dinner of
Yep.
just sitting, breathing, being quiet, staying off of your phone.
Yep.
There's little things that you can make. And everyone's meditation, I do believe, looks different. Even though I'm intuitive and I can do 90-minute readings and sit there completely focused, I am a terrible meditator. Terrible.
Your mind
Walking
is
is my meditation.
Your mind is
My mind is too fast. But I can go on a 5-mile walk, listening to music and just really connected to the world around me.
Yep.
And that is what brings me a lot of, it grounds me and brings me a lot of just kind of like calmness in my day as well.
You know, it's interesting. I live in a rural area north of Manhattan. We found an old farm here, and it's right next to a nature walk. And so my puppy, who's no longer a puppy, and I go for 2-mile, 3-mile walks, and I talk to her, and there's nobody else out there, and it's sort of like my park. And by the time I come back, I feel ready for the day. And
Exactly.
it's just a little self-care is okay. You can enjoy that. It's okay. This is such fun.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth, if the folks want to reach you, where should they reach you?
The best place to reach me is thegoodadvicecompany.com. And I have a little toggle on there about personal branding. And then a lot of my own thought leadership and thoughts and hot takes on life can be found on LinkedIn as well.
Good. So it's Elizabeth Rosenberg. And for our listeners and our viewers, wasn't this fun today? You know, I have a hunch as you're sitting there, you're saying to yourself, let's just sit still. Let's be mindful, quiet down, take a little time for me. It's okay. Everything that has to get done will get done. It's okay. And besides, whoever cares for you and about you will be happy to do that with you. And so don't kill yourself. It's not necessary. Anyway, I'm happy to always share great people. Elizabeth has been wonderful. And I thank all of you who send me at info@andisimon.com your ideas, people you want me to pick up and talk to. Today I was in the UK, and I had a great talk with someone in Kansas City. And now I have Elizabeth. I don't know where she is, but she is such fun. And the world is flat, maybe not. But I'm really watching our podcast. It's in the top 5% of global podcasts. I can't thank our listeners enough for coming and joining and sharing. It's great fun. My books are available at Amazon. Rethink is about smashing the myths of women in business. Meet Elizabeth. She smashed it. And On the Brink is about how you can smash your company and turn it into something great using a little anthropology. Take it and think of it as a little bit of your personal branding at the same time. Step out, look out, and see what's inside. And I'm always glad to share with you. Please stay well. Remember, turn your observations into innovations and enjoy. Safe travels. Thanks, Elizabeth. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.